Welcome to another edition of Mark's Inspiration, the Power is Within podcast. And we are glad you could join us here today. I have with me Braden. How old are you, Braden?
I'm 16.
16. When are you going to be 17?
This July.
Oh, man. Getting up there.
Yeah.
How about you? What's your name?
Henry, I'm
This
19.
is Henry. We got him up there. He's 19. And you're going to be 20 this year.
Yep.
All right, great. We're going to be talking about marriage, divorce, having a baby, what you should know before you decide to marry a woman or to have a baby with a woman, at least here in the West. It's different in different parts of the world. And tonight we're having a guest, Jay Luster. If he didn't fall asleep, he's over in Germany, so we're kind of waiting for him to come, but we're going to go ahead and get started without him. Be sure to join us in the chat. There's Pauline. She's in the chat. Says the sound is great. Thanks, Pauline. Paulina. Why am I calling you Pauline? I never call her Pauline. It's Paulina. Paulina is my 16-year-old daughter, the perfect daughter.
Yeah.
Get her to clean them dishes, Paulina. And then I'll say you're the perfect daughter. I think her boyfriend's coming over tonight, or her friend. I'm not sure if it's her boyfriend. Her friend is coming over tonight. So we're going to get started on this. I've been talking to Jay. I just met Jay through Kings and Dreams. You guys be sure to check out Kings and Dreams, his channel. He contacted me and wanted to talk about some of these things for the benefit of younger men, because a lot of young men think about getting married and they really have no idea what they're getting into. I think Rollo Tomasi says it's an unconscionable contract. It's a contract that if it was a business deal in some other aspect, you would never enter into, because there's no benefit for you, really. I mean, there used to be, but now there isn't, because there's just not a benefit. She doesn't have to, once you get married, if you have kids, the chances of you getting those kids in a divorce are slim. I always say in Missouri here, the woman dang near has to be oh yes, we have merch coming out, by the way, Paulina says. So some states may be a little different, but here in our state and most states in the U.S., and if she doesn't want you to see that kid, you're not going to see that kid. So you have very limited access to the kid. The normal thing, if it works out to your benefit as a young person, as a man who's married, if you divorce, you get to see the kid every other weekend. Yeah, every other weekend. And the holidays are separated between you and the ex. And then a few weeks in the summertime. So you actually don't have much of a chance to be too much of a father. And if she decides she doesn't like you, or she wants to use those kids to manipulate you, which happens sometimes, she can do that. And you can go there to pick up that kid, and she just happens to not be home. And there's really not much you can do about it. Now, a lot of people think, well, you got the court order, you can take it to the police, but that doesn't work. They will not enforce that. They will tell you that's a civil matter. But if you don't pay child support, that's a criminal matter. They will put you in jail for that. So she doesn't have to keep up her end of the deal, even in the divorce. In the marriage, she doesn't have to either. We have what we call no-fault divorce here in the U.S., where adultery or cheating, when you get married, you're supposed to be monogamous with you. That's the contract. You're supposed to be monogamous with each other, unless, of course, you and your spouse decide to have one of those. What's that, polyamory?
Like open relationship.
One of those. I guess you could do that, but more normally, traditionally, it's a marriage where you guys just stay with each other. So if either spouse decides to cheat, there's no fault divorce. So what that means is you can come home and catch your wife in bed with somebody and you can divorce her, but that's not going to make any difference when it comes to court. It used to make a difference, but it doesn't now, because they consider that her breaking the contract. But in this case now, they don't consider it that. So if you think you're getting married and you're going to have a steady supply of, of intimacy with a woman, that's not necessarily so. That's what a lot of men think. Oh, I have this woman, I won't have to go out and chase women. But if she decides she doesn't want to keep up that end of the deal, she doesn't have to either. I've even heard of some people saying that, they say that a wife can be graped, so, which, I mean, obviously anybody could be if a man forced himself, but it goes so far as to say if he wants to be with her and she doesn't want to, but she does it, even though she doesn't want to do it, then that's kind of like she feels like, or she can say she's been raped. So that's come a long way from what the original idea of marriage was. So let's look at the stats here. What is the current U.S. divorce rate? in America, according to American Psychological Association, approximately 40 to 50% of first marriages end in divorce. So flip a coin, boys. Flip a coin.
Uh-huh.
But if you want to have kids, I mean, you guys are young, and I'm sure you've thought about marriage. Let's go with you, bro. You're younger, but what do you think about when you think about marriage, or what you want to have kids someday? I mean, do you think maybe you might want to have kids?
Yeah,
I
no,
know
no,
you're young now. What
yeah,
do you
no
think
doubt.
about
My
it?
lineage is gonna be pretty packed, but
What do you think about that?
whenever I was younger, I was thinking a lot about marriage, but as I grew older, the idea kind of just like faded away. But definitely, I was always thinking of like, oh, who should I marry? And then once the reality hit me, it kind of just faded away after that. But for kids, no, I definitely want. I mean, I wouldn't mind having a daughter, but I want a majority of my kids to definitely be boys.
Yeah. Well, how about you, Henry?
When I was dating my last girlfriend, we talked about marriage and we talked about getting married, but not like
A ceremonial.
Yeah, just having-
ceremonial marriage.
just having the ceremony and stuff. But nowadays, with the way the laws are, you could not get married legally and still have issues with.
Well, they recognize here in I think in Missouri or in the U.S. basically like what they call a common law marriage. If you live with someone for 7 years, you're considered marriage. You're married. And also now, if you're living with someone and she's getting mail at your place, that's also could be considered. Well, it wouldn't be considered marriage, but she has a lot of rights. As almost like I heard something. I can't remember what it was about. I think that's in Canada. There's a deal about that she can have the same rights as a woman who's married to you, depending on how long she lives there. Here it's 7 years, and they consider that you're married. So what happens is, let's say you got married and she didn't have anything, but you had quite a bit of assets. Well, if you guys stay married for a few years, she's going to get half your assets. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. If when you two guys met, I don't believe if neither one of you had hardly anything, and you built up something over a period of years, and she stayed home was a housewife. I understand 50-50 on that because she supported you. She's done her part. You did your part. Then I think both of you should walk away and split because it took both of you to do it. But the problem is when usually 9 times out of 10, because men marry down, which means they marry someone who's in lower status, and the man usually has quite a bit of assets, and then they marry or they have a kid. I mean, you guys tell me, you guys know a few basketball players or a couple of them have gotten taken to the cleaners by some I don't like to mention names. We'll say a woman. Didn't the older woman get pregnant by a young basketball player, and she's trying to get like quite a bit of money?
Yeah.
And there's
a few. There's a few. Yeah.
It's common. Like you hear a lot about the basketball players sleeping with how do I say it? Adult
entertainers.
Yeah, adult.
entertainers.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
they get pregnant, and then the women are like taken.
There was a big one that happened recently, but yeah, for the most part, it's basketball players. I don't hear too much about football or tennis or anything.
Wasn't there a girl that wrote a book about how to take advantage of those type of situations?
I'm
Yeah,
not sure exactly.
pretty
what
sure,
the book is, but I think that's what it's
I
about.
think her initials are CB, something like that. Is she the one that wrote it?
It's BR is what her initials are.
I'm feeling lost here.
I don't know.
I don't keep up with this.
I didn't
But
keep up with it either. Like I said, I don't like to mention names. But so you got a 50-50 chance not making it. Now, let's say 50%. Okay, now 50% of people stay married. How many of that 50% are happily married? I mean, Henry, you know a couple people that are married and just like they're just. I know a guy, a friend of mine, I used to party with years ago, and he's married, and I forgot what he called the old prison sentence or something like that. And I know, well, I'm pretty sure that she cheated on him one time, was running around on him, and he just is existing. And I like the guy, and I hate to see it. But what happens is people change sometimes after they get married, and once they're locked in, especially here, you can't hardly. If he was divorced her, I think he's got 2 or 3 kids. They've been married for, my gosh, I don't know, 25, 30. I'm trying to think, 20. Yeah, probably around 30 years or more. He'd be living in a little trailer, and she'd be living in the house they got. Now, they probably got a bigger new house now. I'm not sure, but Yeah, and he'd be seeing his kids, limited access to his kids. She'd be living in the house probably with another man, and it's probably maybe his house is paid for. If not, he'd still be paying for make house payments. And sometimes you have to pay alimony too. That's not real common in the state here,
Mhm.
and that can happen any time just because she decides that she does. And of course, the man can leave also. But if we go on to that, let's see what they say about that. Who initiates a divorce mostly? Okay, a study led by the American Sociological Association determined that nearly 70% of divorces are initiated by the woman. So there you go. Who's got the most to gain from it? The woman does. And the percentage of college educated American women who initiate divorce is even higher. So if you're married to someone with a higher education, you got more of a chance of getting divorced there. She's able to initiate for divorce. Now, what some women would say is, well, that's because we can make our own money now. We don't have to put up with that crap. And we used to have to do that because we couldn't get by ourselves. But isn't it amazing? A lot of times a woman will say, I don't need no man. And she's waiting for that child support check.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's not for me. That's for the kids. Well, I know
Right.
for a fact, because I paid child support and I raised you guys for the last 6 years by myself, that it's a heck of a lot cheaper. So that child support is a lot more than they need to raise the kid. And like we was talking about, those people going after the high-end athletes, the amount that they're asking for is just incredible. It's to maintain. It doesn't cost that much to raise a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, so they're trying to take advantage of the system, and unfortunately, sometimes they get it. Hang on. You sure you sent that to the right one?
Yeah.
Just no response, huh? I think our guest must have fallen asleep tonight or something. I'm not sure. So anyway, we'll proceed. Probably have a short show tonight because if he doesn't show up, maybe we'll reschedule for some other time. We'll go through a few of the stats here and discuss a little bit. Join us in the chat. If you're in the chat, let us know. We'll recognize you. Any questions? Fire away. So you got 70% initiated by the woman. Of course, then some women may say, well, that's because we don't have to let these men beat on us or abuse us anymore. And I know that has gone on in the past. That's for sure. Now, if we go on to the countries with the highest marriage rates, which means successful marriage, let's see who that is. Which country has the longest lasting marriages? Italy. Italy has the longest lasting marriages. I'm kind of surprised there. I would have thought it would have been a different one.
Yeah.
Which country has the lowest marriage rates? Oh, no. Number of marriages. But they also had the lowest number of marriages, too. So they don't have as many people getting married. Let me see. But they get the longest lasting marriages, but fewer people getting married.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know how that works out. I wonder who's got the highest divorce rate. Let's see. What do you think? I'm taking a guess. Who's got the highest divorce rate?
Probably the West us.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't know. We're pretty high up there.
Or
Because I looked it up once
I'm not sure.
in 2022. The Maldives. I never thought about that. The country with the highest yearly divorce rate is the Maldives, with 5.52 divorces per 1,000 people, more than double the global average.
Dang.
Wow.
No.
Well, we're working our way up there, so we're not too far off.
I guess so. Let me see. Maldives, Belgium. I can't even pronounce it. Kaskatsuan. I don't know what I can't even say. Russia's one of them. Belarus. Yeah. So, what do you think the benefits are of getting married? What would you saying about getting married? What do you think your benefits would be?
For
I'm gonna
men
get
or
married-
for
I'm gonna
just
get
in
married
general?
because why?
For like us or like for
No, for you. If you were going to get married, what would your reasons be? Most time people are in love when they get married because they want to be with that girl. But why would you make a decision to marry someone?
I would say back in like let's say like back in like you're like your age, whenever you first started growing up, I think like it was more beneficial back then. But nowadays there's like little to none benefits because like The woman gets all the profit from it if you guys do end up divorcing.
Yeah.
So if you, let's say you're a basketball player and you marry anyone, and she can divorce you whenever it hits that time, she gets half of your profit.
Okay, but if you're going into it and you're in love and you know it's going to work out, you think so. Why do you think you would say I'm going to get married because? What would be your reason now? If you were going to do, I want to get married because
I can't think of one.
I literally
The
can't.
only
Well,
time-
okay, now what if you're with her and you guys been together a long time? She says, "Oh, you've experienced that already, kind of." But I really love you, but where are we going with this? And you're like, what do you mean? Well, she's 22, 23. She's wanting 24. She's wanting to have a baby, have a family. So she's wanting to tie you down and have a family. And of course, she's more than likely not going into it with the idea that she's going to divorce you and take your stuff. She just wants to settle down. So she's kind of giving me an ultimatum. Well, either we got to get married or I'm going to move on.
Well,
That's the best. That's
See
all
you
you got
later.
to do. Yeah.
Well,
If it comes down to it, it's your life over hers. Well, not in like that little romantic, but I think if it's that age and she's like pushing it to that point, I think you just kind of move on at that point.
yeah.
It's for the best. It might hurt in the beginning, but you got to do what you got to do. Can't take that risk.
So how do you think? So if you want to have children, how are you going to do that? You don't have to get married to have kids, of course, but the optimal situation to raise kids is with a man and a woman. So how do you, looking off into the future in 5, 10, 15 years, 20, whatever, how do you think you're going to go about having children?
I would try to find somebody that's got a good, like a stable family, that's got maybe a traditional type of household, like the mom, she cooks, cleans everything, stays home, takes care of the kids, and then the father is working or whatever, whoever the,
Oh, so you
man
want a
of the house
slave?
is.
Is that what you want?
Hey,
That's what a lot of people are going to tell you now. Ladies, women, you want a slave? Somebody stay home and cook, clean, take care of your stuff. Why should she do that?
because I'm doing the same thing. I'm working.
Yeah.
I'm making bread
Exactly.
for us.
You're working hard so she can stay home and raise her own children. What do you guys think about daycare?
I would think if both parents are working, like if you see it more in like lower income families, I would put my kid into like an all female daycare. I'm kind of going with like Andrew Tate says. I feel a little weird if I put my child in like an all man daycare.
Is there such a thing?
I don't know, but like I would prefer it to be all females. There's more like deeper meaning to it, but I just don't feel. I feel like the emotional like part would be to put my kid in all female daycare.
Well, optimally, do you think it would be best if the child was raised by the mother?
Of course.
Oh, 100%.
Well, why do you think these mothers don't stay home and raise their kids?
Probably want to live that party lifestyle.
Or there's the idea that all women should have a career. Like me and you make jokes about how some women, whenever they talk about being a traditional wife, other women will ask, well, you don't want to have a career? And raising your kids is a career in itself. That's why we have daycares, that makes a lot of money. But it would be best for the mother to raise her own children, especially because they're in the daycare, they're getting somebody else's agenda, the way somebody else thinks or whatever.
Like someone putting their own like ideas in your kids' thoughts. I see me personally, I'm not at the age to where I can give a valid point. I can give like thoughts and my opinion, but I feel like in my lifestyle right now, at my age, I experience more of like what girls my age want to do, and that's mainly like 90 to 10% want to live that party lifestyle, go out, have fun, which is like it's cool and everything, but you're just kind of wasting your life away. Like I want like if I'm at like the age like 25, 30. And let's say I wanted to have kids and a family, I would want you to not live that party lifestyle when you were younger. like sleeping with random dudes you see like once a night and you never
So a
see.
lot of these young people think that's just the way it is. It's like they go through their 304 phase.
Yeah.
It's just a normal part of growing up. We used to be back when I was growing up, they would say men sowed their wild oats. It was a man thing. I suppose where the women got that now, they didn't do that back then. They got that now as they're trying to be like men. So I guess they adopted that attitude also. They think they can go out and sleep around with a bunch of different men and it's not going to affect them or affect their chances of getting a good man in the future. Whether it's fair or not, that's neither here nor there. The bottom line is it does affect the way men look at them. I know a lot of women get pissed off about that, but I don't make up the rules. I don't make up the way people think.
Yeah.
If you don't like the sun coming up in the morning and blinding you, better just put on a pair of sunglasses. It's going to come on. So most men do not want a woman that's been with a lot of different guys. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to walk down the street and wonder if that guy's been with my wife or that guy or this guy or what if she's on OnlyFans. I mean, she done showed herself to everybody and they do different types of pornography on OnlyFans too and all kinds of things. I mean, myself as a man, I would go out with a girl who'd been on OnlyFans, but as far as making her a mother or wife to my mother to my kids or wife, I just wouldn't want to wonder who's. Let's say you go to a convention or you're speaking somewhere. How many of them guys out in the audience maybe have seen your wife do who knows what? Maybe none of them, but a man is going to be wondering about that. Does anybody know her from OnlyFans? And what if you are at a party or a gathering or something and you see people over there talking about it and they had seen her on OnlyFans and they brought it up? How embarrassing would that be? I mean, a man's reputation, a woman's reputation is important too, but a man's reputation, he wants to be proud of his woman or to feel good about the woman he's got. And if she's showed herself to everybody, women don't like that. They think it shouldn't be that, but that's just the way it is. Most men, there are men I'm sure that don't care, but most men don't like that. So whether they like it or not, that's just the way men view things. It's the same as women view things. They don't want to go out with some loser who's working at McDonald's and he's 35 years old and he's been there 6 months. And before that, he was working at Burger King. Before that, he was working as a janitor at the school, which is probably a better job than ours.
Yeah.
I mean, they want a man who's going to be able to provide and take care of them. And if she wants to have kids, well, that's kind of, and that's okay. That's their preference. But it seems like in our society, when men have a preference when it comes to women's past, then we're like, oh, you shouldn't think that way, you shouldn't do that. When men are concerned about a woman's past and women are concerned about a man's future. A lot of times a woman will hook up with a guy if he's doing something, even though he hasn't accomplished anything yet.
Yeah.
But if he's motivated, he's working hard because she can see the potential in him. And a good woman can help that man reach his potential sooner than he could by himself. And in contrast to that, a bad woman can pull that man off his path and he will never reach his potential. So a man has to be careful about who he decides he wants to hook up with or marry. Hook up is one thing, have one night stand, but even with that, if you get somebody pregnant, but he needs to be careful about who he decides to share his life with. That's actually one of the most important things. I've got together with a couple of people that I probably would have been better off that I wouldn't have, and it set me back. But I can't say that I didn't get something out of it because I learned a lot of valuable life lessons. I probably wouldn't be here doing what I am today had I not gone through those losses. So I try to look at everything in a good light. So did you ever open that up, Frank? Well, it looks like our guest must have fell asleep tonight or something happened to him. So we're going to wrap it up because I have a meeting to go to at 7 anyway and I have to pick somebody up. So we will see you guys next Saturday night at the same time. Next Saturday, I have Kings and Greens on. He will be here with us. We'll be discussing travel and women abroad. And that's what I recommend my kids do. Find you a woman out of the States if you want to have kids. And don't bring her back here because she might get Americanized.
Yeah.
I did. I brought one back here and she learned, she learned some bad behavior from my last ex-wife and she used the tools that my last ex-wife used on me to do the same thing to me. Anyway, it was a mess. So something to think about. All right, we're going to go. Thanks for joining us and have a wonderful evening.